From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, folks. It's great to have you here. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show, and it is a delightful day. We're happy today. We're perky. We're upbeat because you're here with us. I know that sounds very Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but what the hell, man? Let's be happy some days. And my mother, when one of us would be going out the door, one of us 6 kids, she would always say, "Have a happy day." And when I was younger, I always thought that was such a silly thing to say. But now as I get older, it's like, oh, I like that. So I hope there's some happy in your day today because you've reached us with some happy in our day. It doesn't mean the whole day is happy, but sometimes they are. Anyway, all the happy stuff aside, we're going to have a most unpleasant day of counseling. No, I'm teasing. Wherever you're tuning in from, whether it's Belgium, Bruges, or Milwaukee, whether you are tuning in from southern Texas or northern Washington or anywhere in Japan, it's great to have our Japanese listeners and our Latvian listeners. I'm joined in studio today by actually KC. She is not in the booth. She is with us in studio, but she had to step out for a second. We're waiting for her to step back in, but we're going to start the show without her because we naively think we can do this show without her. And I'm also joined by Rob, the you-know-what rocket. Rob, how are you?
Happy, joy, happy, joy. I'm here. And I'm happy, okay? I'm happy.
Wow. I like that. We had songs like that growing up going to Sunday school. Did you have any sort of songs like that going to temple?
No, we had, we did.
Yeah.
They weren't as fun as Ren and Stimpy, happy, joy songs.
Is that a Ren and Stimpy song?
Oh, yeah.
I see. I never got into Ren and Stimpy.
That's because you're normal.
Well, it's odd that a man of your generation would get into Ren and Stimpy.
I had kids.
I was Heckle and Jekyll. My kids were into Barney. All right. I like Barney. All right. Rob, we've got one humdinger of a show today. Tell us, Rob, if you would, sir, about Janis and Rick.
All right, Sven, this is interesting indeed. I'm looking forward to this. Janis wrote in with the subject line, "My brother killed my mother." Yeah, and the message is, bipolar genius father, a PhD psychologist, cold, distant alcoholic mother, an RN, physical abuse from dad, betrayal from mother, sister-brother incest, addiction me, alcoholic sister, addict first-born daughter, food addict second daughter, addict mental illness brother, brother convicted of elder abuse and second-degree manslaughter in 2010, currently in state prison system. This is background. I was a terrible mother, wading through the guilt, shame, etc. I'm in my mid-60s. Help. And we also heard from Rick, who said, "I've been following your show for a while. I really like it. Here's my background. I'm 64, divorced, 2 kids, daughter 29, son 26, was married to an alcoholic for 22 years. In 2013, my father died of cancer. My mom had Alzheimer's, and I was the one taking care of them. In 2015, my mom died, and I was forced out of a job I loved and got divorced. I'm a recovering codependent and relate to the dismissive, avoidant, or anxious, preoccupied attachment style. I'm currently going through a tough breakup with a woman I love. She has her own trauma in her life, alcoholic mother, married to an alcoholic for 33 years. Her father tried climbing into bed with her as a teenager and has a strained relationship with her daughters. I'm really going through a lot right now and trying to figure things out. I grew up with a stutter in my speech and suppressed my emotions growing up. I'm a people pleaser. Yes, I sound like a basket case right now, but feel I have a lot to offer your listeners."
Rick and Janis, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thanks, Sven.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure is ours. Well, we're just going to hit it hard. You guys put it out here. I want you to know in advance that you've shared some really powerful, deep, transparent, heavy shit. If at any point in our discussion today you just don't want to fucking touch it, just say, "Fuck off, man," and I'll back off. And I mean that, all right? But I'm going to ask honest questions, but that doesn't mean you have to answer it, all right? We need that because both of you have just literally brought up incest. Okay? Now, in your case, Rick, it wasn't you. It was the woman you've been in a relationship with. So there's that. Rick, you have opened by telling us you have a stutter in your speech. And so that obviously, I'm sure you wouldn't have put that in there unless that's been an issue in your life. So you guys are just revealing all your shit here. Janis, brother killed your mother when you were, I'm going to guess, roughly in your early 50s. And so we got a lot on the table here, folks. All right. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to start, Jan, with you. So what for you, you listed several horrible things. You were a terrible mother in your own reckoning. You listed that your brother killed your mother. You listed physical abuse. You listed mom betrayal. You listed sister-brother incest. Of all of those things, for you personally, and there's no right or wrong answer, only you can answer this question, which for you is the thing that afflicts your soul most, that has the most fucking energy around it, the most whatever you want to call it, that just tears at your soul most?
The betrayal.
The betrayal
of my mom.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And so the betrayal of your mom for you is worse than perhaps the feelings regarding the incest or your brother killing your mom or even any, let's say, guilt over being a terrible mother. It was the fucking betrayal. And why is that, Janis?
Well, Sven, I think that the betrayal is the root of my problem because it destroyed me in my soul. And I have a really hard time trusting people.
And when you say betrayal, just so we are all clear, what do you mean? If you were to put it into one sentence or less, what are we referring to here, Jan?
Okay, I'm going to try and make it as succinct as possible. My father punched me in the face and broke my nose when I was about 15 or 16. And my mother completely swept it under the carpet. She wouldn't take me to the doctor. When I finally insisted on going to the doctor for my broken nose, she said, "You tell him that you fell off the swings." And she basically did not protect me in that situation. And she didn't validate my feelings at all.
Okay. Now, stop. Now, if, of course, and all of those things are true, and I completely agree with you, and go fuck her for, all the bullshit. And not only that, you're expected to cover up for dad as well. And mom's obviously a fucking coward. But I'm inclined to think if mom is covering for dad, if mom is fundamentally forcing you to eat the shit, if mom is turning her back on you in that giant of a thing at age 15 or 16, it seems to imply, unless mom underwent some massive transformation of character when you were 14, that it implies mom had been this same person, this same coward the entire time, which implies there had been large, but for sure medium and small betrayals the entire fucking time. Accurate or inaccurate?
Oh, completely accurate.
And what is the very earliest betrayal or something sort of in that food group that you recall from your entire life, Jan?
Gosh. Okay. So I was 4 years old. And this is probably where my really good memories end for childhood, was I had a tonsillectomy at 4. There was another story surrounding that. But the incident that I remember was being post-surgical and throwing up blood and the searing pain in my throat and being made to go attend my sister's recital because she was a year older than me. She was 5. And I had to go with them to watch my sister because she was the golden child.
Wow.
And I was so sick and I was in such pain. And but that's what I remember was the hurt and the, why do I, somebody, somebody stay home with me.
And give me a feeling word that either you felt then, that you recall feeling, perhaps that you can even still feel inside you now or not, but you either recall feeling then or now, as you think about it, you feel now.
I felt completely dismissed, completely like, you're not important. It's all about your sister. And shut up and suck it up.
And those are thoughts. Give me a feeling word. What would a 4-year-old feel?
Hurt is the only word I can come up with,
Yeah,
but
hurt, sad.
yeah,
You bet.
sad,
Yep.
probably mad in there somewhere, but I think the hurt was probably the bigger one.
And if you were to speculate, if you were to just sort of crawl into that 4-year-old skin, and that 4-year-old is actually you. So that response, that feeling is literally your authentic self. That was literally your authentic response, a normal response to an abnormal set of circumstances. So that little 4-year-old was having a very normal response, and she was feeling hurt that what?
That I wasn't more important than my sister's recital.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And one of the things most interesting in your recounting of this story, and even the 15, 16-year-old story, is how you've told it. You've been laughing the whole time. And quite frankly, I don't blame you. I have no idea what it would be like to live with the amount of trauma and life that you have endured. So you're getting no disrespect from me. I have no idea. And maybe that's the only way a person can cope. So, hey, hats off to you on that one. Okay. But isn't it interesting that perhaps the laughing is the only way you can discharge some amount of the feeling? Because holy fuck, if I actually allowed myself to feel the real shit, I fear that it would just fucking destroy me. It would overwhelm me. It would be too much. Am I in the ballpark, or does that not resonate?
Oh, totally. And this is one of the reasons that my kids think that I deflect with laughter, which I do, and humor and sarcasm, which I do.
Mm-hmm.
Not always have I done that, though. This is something that I've learned. I actually learned it in recovery. I learned how to inject a little bit of humor. And you know what? It's not really for me even. I think it's for my listener.
And you fear that what? They will feel bad for you. You don't want them to be uncomfortable. And and the reason you don't want them to feel uncomfortable is what? In one sentence or less, because is it the fear that if I'm making them uncomfortable, then what?
They're not gonna like me.
There it is. Nailed it. Nailed it. That my pain, that I'm not really fundamentally just allowed to be me and discuss it. I have to be more worried about your feelings, which is your whole fucking childhood right there. Okay, I want to put a pause on that. I want to flip over to you here, Rick. Rick, I want to just go right to your stutter in your speech. And the reason I want to go there, Rick, and I know that's probably not why the hell you came on the show today, but you linked two things together in the exact same fucking sentence. You said, I grew up with a stutter in my speech, and suppressed my emotions growing up. Isn't it fucking fascinating? You put those two things in the same fucking sentence. You didn't put in the same sentence, I grew up with a stutter in my speech, and, my parents were fucking, mom died, or my parents were abusers. You didn't say any of that. You put those two things in the same sentence. So I am curious. Here's the thing. When a child comes out of the womb, child comes out crying or laughing or just sleeping. And then when a child is hungry, what do? They cry. When a child has gas, what do? They burp or they laugh or and children naturally express sounds, noises, feelings. That is the human natural state. So when you say, I suppressed my emotions growing up, no, you didn't. Not naturally, you didn't. That means some external force was working on you to force suppression. Now, either overtly saying, you should fucking blah, 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 do this or that. Or, such as in Jan's case, to some degree, Jan got the message, just stuff that shit down. We ain't interested. Suck it up, you little bitch. We're going to your sister's fucking recital. Don't be a fucking twat. We're going, okay? But in your case, you were taught to suppress your fucking feelings. And I want to know, How was that message conveyed that your feelings, your emotions are not welcome here?
Ben, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I will tell you. So, my dad was a World War II veteran. The men of a completely different breed. A good man. He loved us, but when he met my mom, we had myself and three brothers. I have three brothers. I am the middle of the child. My father or my nor my mother they never encouraged emotional attunement, never encouraged me to feel and express my emotions and let them out in the healthy, the positive, the manner. When I was about 6 years old, I first started to stutter.
What were you going to say? Don't what?
I don't. And at that time, I didn't know why.
And what I want to know is why. Two things. One, why 6? Why 6? Because, for instance, when Jan, I said, back it up, Jan. That 15 wasn't the first time Mom didn't betray, and she's like, boom, 4. So I want to know with you, why 6? You didn't say 3. You didn't say 9. You said 6. Why 6?
I was in a school play, and I still remember this. I was in a school play, and my line was, well, we didn't bring in very much money today. The word money, for some reason, for the first time in my life, I couldn't say the word money. I got stuck on, it just would not come out. Now, I remember we had moved from the Cincinnati up to Northwest Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved to a whole new location. Don't know if all that had anything to do with it. But still, my parents never taught me, encouraged me to feel or express emotion.
Understood on the emotions. I want to ask you about one more thing, and then I want to flip back to Jan.
Sure.
I want to ask you, my parents were World War II generation.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, and maybe it's a generation thing, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a personality thing, but I want to know about pressure. Was there pressure? Now, I grew up in a family of 5 boys and 1 girl, and at times she would have considered herself even one of the boys. It still does. And so the idea of the dinner table, the idea of fast-moving conversations, the idea of hurling insults all over the place, the idea of things, ideas, words ricocheting in every direction. When was there pressure, particularly when speaking growing up, or get it out, or, come on, boy, what are you trying to say? Was there pressure in your home?
I think so, because there were 4 boys, so we were always trying to compete, I guess, for our mom and dad's attention. And I feel that I didn't always get the attention that I would have wanted, or the needed, or the love.
And was there pressure from dad or mom?
I don't remember. All I know is I needed love. I needed to be held.
Understood. But did you feel heard by your parents?
No, I did not. And that's opening a whole new the can of worms.
Okay. Okay. I want to flip back to Janice. Janice, you recall your mom betraying you when you're 14 or 15, 16. Your dad punched you in the nose. and she wouldn't take you to the hospital. You went on your own. She basically says, tell him you fell off the swing, which is a little silly for a 15 or 16-year-old to be on a swing. Although, maybe you are, whatever. But at 4 years old, that's when she betrayed you. You're post-op and you're throwing up blood from the oral surgery. And you said, my good memories end at 4 years old. In my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, I talked about twirling. And when did you stop twirling? And it clearly started then. And you recall feeling hurt. And so all of your feelings, is it safe to say all of your feelings basically at age 4 started to get stuffed inside? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And reasonable to assume. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that I think that's where the levity comes in. Because even right now I'm like super emotional. I don't want to go there.
And what emotion are you feeling most?
Sad, I guess.
What's the single saddest thing that you are feeling right now?
I just wish I had more time with her.
And the reason you wish you had more time with her is what?
Because maybe we could have an honest conversation and I could change her mind about there's a whole other dynamic behind there. And she knew about my sister and my brother, but I didn't until after my sister died. And my mother lumped me in that group of sexual inappropriateness. And I wasn't even in the country. I was in the army in Germany. I mean, I wasn't even around. Mm-hmm. But yet she thought somehow I was involved with that sexual triangle thing with my brother. And she judged me for it. And apparently this had been going on for a long time.
And so she judged you for it. And right. In what way did she judge you for it, briefly?
My life is not brief. Because she basically cut me off. She said, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Don't call me. Didn't give me her phone number.
And of course, what did she say? What did she say was the reason? Because you're an incestuous fuck who fucked your brother? Is that it?
Well, kind of. Okay. I mean, she said the way y'all sexualized Rick, and my brother's name is Rick.
Oh, okay.
So yes, and so it's basically she didn't want to have anything to do with me.
And that happened when you were what age?
Oh, this happened at.
You're in the army. You're overseas, so you're what? 20?
20s.
Okay, but prior to that, you didn't have a relationship with your mother?
My mother, I got pregnant after my nose was broken. Some year after that. Honestly, I don't remember what year I got pregnant. She sat me down. She said, we can never tell your father. We're going to take care of this. And she had my sister and her boyfriend take me to the abortion clinic. They dropped me off. Somebody picked me up. I'm sure it was my sister. My mother never spoke about it. I was never offered any options about it.
Did you want to have the child?
I did not.
Looking back, that's fine. That's fine. Looking back, what do you wish?
I wish I would have had an option. I wish we could have talked about it. I wish.
All right.
I wasn't.
So back to this notion of your mother and this mythical relationship that you wish you would have had. So by the time you're in your 20s, just so we're clear, your mom had, at age 4, you've just told me 4 fucking events by your early to mid 20s. By age 4, you've had mouth surgery and you're bleeding from the mouth and your throat is in pain, and she expects you to get out of bed and go to your sister's recital at age 4. At age 15, you get punched in the face by your father, breaks your nose. She won't take you to the hospital. You have to take yourself. She says, don't tell them what happened. Make up this lie basically to protect your father. And by the way, also to protect her because she'd be fucking carted away as well. A year and a half later, you're pregnant and she forces you, you're not allowed in on the conversation, forces you to get an abortion. By your early to mid 20s, she has accused you of something you didn't do, and that is incestual relationship with your siblings. 4 things. Okay. And so she was murdered by your brother in 2010 when you were approximately 50 years old, and you wish you had had more time with her so you could have had an honest conversation with her and change her mind about what exactly? In one sentence or less, what precisely do you wish you could have changed her mind about?
That I'm not a monster. I'm not a bad person.
That
I didn't
I'm
do those
not
things.
a monster. That I'm not a monster. Just out of curiosity, if you were to be totally honest, what percent do you, gotta fucking be honest, moment of truth here, what percent do you believe that you are a monster? Be honest.
About 60%.
And we'll be right back after this short break.
My best friend made me listen to some podcast, said it had blown her away. So we listened to a lightning round of the Badass Counseling Show together. All I can say is, wow. First podcast I'd ever listened to. Now it's my addiction. If you haven't done it yet, you need to subscribe to the Badass Counseling Show.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
And we are back. Rick, with all that you've got going on in your life, you're 64, divorced, 2 kids, married to an alcoholic for 22 years. Father died of cancer. Mom has Alzheimer's. You were the one taking care of him. 2015, mom died. You were forced out of a job you love. You got divorced. You're recovering codependent, going through a tough breakup with a woman you love. She has trauma in her life. Alcoholic mother. Her father tried to climb into bed with her as a teenager. She has a strained relationship with her daughters. You're going through a lot right now, trying to figure things out. You grew up with your stutter. Yes, I sound like a basket case, but I feel I have a lot to offer your listeners. My question is, what is the single biggest issue in your life right now that is vexing your soul? In one sentence or less, what is just fucking killing you, Rick?
The lid has been totally ripped off the can of worms in terms of me being able to acknowledge and feel and express my emotions that I stuffed down in my soul my whole fucking life.
And so what does that mean? When you say the lid has been ripped off, what precisely do you mean?
I mean, my whole life, I stuffed, and I never allowed myself to feel my emotions.
And what's the impact now is the question.
Right now, I am dealing with a lot of the sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of you may call it a depression. I'm trying like hell to be climbing up out of the rabbit hole. I have my best friend, my brothers, who are always checking in on me to make sure I'm doing okay. I have people around me who love me. The relationship that just ended, it just totally ripped my guts out because she loves me and she wanted to make things work.
Which ripped your heart out more? The ending of your marriage of 22 years or this relationship now?
This relationship.
Why?
Why? Because I felt like for the first time in my life, I had made connections with someone, and we were. I had my shit, and she had her shit. I felt like I was showing up for her the way she needed it. I felt like I was doing the best job I could to hold space for her and allowing her to feel seen, heard, and understood.
And was she reciprocating?
Yes, to a degree, but I didn't understand the full depth of the pain in her soul.
And when did all of your feelings from your past, you said the lid has been ripped off, the lid of all your feelings of an entire life, did the ripping off of the lid happen before your relationship with this woman, during the relationship with this woman, or after the relationship with this woman?
After.
Yeah. Understood.
After.
Understood.
Yeah.
That if you, to finally have a relationship where you really feel connected, fucking hell, if you've never had that before, and then to have that in your 60s, fuck me. I mean, 50s, 60s, it's just like, wow, it's like fucking rain in the desert. And then to have that lost, to have it stripped away, it's like, it's just not fair. And so then what that becomes is just this final, it's not, I was going to say, you could say straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's not that. It's like this fucking, there's like, hey, you know what it is? I saw a post today, this week on my number one news source, TikTok. And it said that like in Brazil this week, it was raining spiders.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like that, except not spiders. It's raining like vomit and manure from the sky when you lose that on top of a lifetime of pain. So you've got all this stuff happening. All your stuff from your past is coming up and all the massive loss of this relationship. So I got to ask the, sort of the $64,000 question, Rick, and that's simply this. What are you doing with it all? What active steps are you taking? Is it therapy or what are you doing to address this?
Yes. The very honest of the question. I'm seeing a therapist, and she has been helping me to uncover all this other bullshit. I belong to a men's support group called the Man on Fire. The wonderful group of guys where we can open up and share our deepest of the fears, issues, of problems.
Good.
I regularly exercise. Just in the last week, I'm finally getting my sleeping under control after almost 5.5 months. I read, I meditate. I have a very dear other friend of mine, Dee Dee, and she goes out and we take walks in nature. So I have a lot of good, the healthy support around me. My best friend James, he calls me every fucking other weekend. He will read me the riot act, but only good friends can do that because I know how much he loves me. My brothers call me. My cousin call me.
That's
they
good. So you got
me.
people that give a shit, and that's great, and that's a whole lot of good stuff that you got going on there. I'm going to be very honest with you. There is one giant element that's missing.
Okay.
And if you follow my show, which I know you do, and that you need to incorporate in, you're getting some of it with your therapist, and some of it maybe in the conversations, in your walks with Dee Dee, or maybe in your talks with your brothers, maybe in your talks with James, though James is reading you the riot act, so it sounds like he may be doing more talking than listening. I don't know. It sounds like sounds like a good friend, though. But what you need, though, dude, is pen and paper. You need pen and paper, and you need to start fucking journaling, because that doesn't require any other person. You're not bound by time or space. You can just sit the fuck down, because if you have a lifetime of emotion, there's no amount of therapy at once a week for 50 minutes. And even a group session, which I am a huge believer in group counseling, even still, you can accelerate this whole process, because fundamentally you and Janis are dealing with the exact same fucking thing.
I think so.
Exact same fucking thing. You both have a massive lifetime of fucking trauma. And here's the thing. You can get to the point of healed. It's not something out there that we just dream about. It's actually a place. It's actually a thing. I just had an emergency phone call that I got on a Saturday morning from one of my clients who needed an hour of my time. So I'm shaving and I'm fucking, driving to Starbucks while talking to my client. And she's done so much healing work, but she had a fucking giant mound of crap thrown into her love cup this week. And she was just popping the Xanax and it's like, Sven, what do I do? And I said, we go back to the basics. Go back to your journaling. Go back to writing the letters, flushing it all out. And I guarantee you, because you've been so great at doing the work, I guarantee you the answer is going to present itself after you flush all the shit out. So my point is, because she's done the heavy lifting, because she's gone into the ugliest stuff, the pressure you felt as a child, the feeling unheard, the feeling unseen, or in Jan's case here, the getting punched in the face. And the physical punch at 16, but really the punches to the soul the whole way along at 4, 6, 12. The being taught, a child being taught that she's a monster. And I guarantee, I'm willing to bet in your case, Rick, that, if you picked up a stutter at 6, I'm willing to bet there was no small amount of teasing going on in your home and in school, because back then they still teased stutterers and they weren't protected. So that adds even more pressure and you feel even more stupid and bad. And so now you're hating on yourself. So the monster may not have been your word. It's probably something in the same fucking food group as what Jan was going through. So both of you fuckers have a whole lot of fucking shame inside you, of fucking self-loathing inside you. And the truth is, until that is out of you, it's still in you, which means it is coloring, it is impacting, it is driving every single fucking decision you make, every single relationship, including your parenting of adult parents, including your love relationships. So you want healthier relationships? Do this scary shit. Now, hold on. I'm going to flip over to Jan here. Jan, I asked you what percent do you believe you're a monster? You said 60%. Now, I saw something that none of our listeners or even our producers saw. I saw you leave the room when we went to commercial break. And that's totally okay. Who gives a fuck? But I want to ask, what happened inside of you when you said 60% and I cut to commercial? What went on inside of you? Talk us through it. Tell us what you were feeling. Oh, you're giggling now. What are you feeling right now, Jan? What are you feeling right fucking now, you sly fox?
Okay, but I have to be honest, though. No, when the 60% came out, it was actually a lot higher before I met you.
Oh wow. Okay. Before you met me. Okay.
Before I met you.
Fair.
Because I was completely consumed, because there's a whole lot more to my story. I lost my nursing license behind my addiction. I have a whole lot of shame, things to be ashamed of. Mm-hmm. And I spent a lot of years in shame. And the 60%, I think, honestly, that's a put on, because I'm really getting that vibe from my kids, because I don't think I'm that horrible of a person. I think I have done some horrible things. I have done some things I should have been in prison for.
Oh, okay, stop. Now you got to fucking tell us what that is. You can't throw that shit out there and not tell us. Okay, what did you do that you should be in prison for?
I diverted drugs from the hospital I was working at for a long time.
Okay, okay.
For a couple of years.
I got to keep pulling this thread. What drugs did you divert? I stole the fucking drugs and took them when I was at home. What drugs did you steal, Jan?
Demerol. I was addicted to Demerol for several years.
Understandable. Not crime's a crime, but I get it. That is very addictive. So anyway, you didn't answer my question. What did you feel when I cut to commercial? What was going on inside of you? And I hear you when you say it was higher before, doing the work of Love Cup and Badass Counseling. But what did you feel when you said that out loud? What did you feel?
And when you said it out loud is what got me. Just a minute ago to Rick, you said it out loud and I teared up, and it was a gut punch. So.
Because why? Why is it a gut punch to say, I believe I am. And you then followed up by saying my kids are basically reinforcing that. But why does it tear you up to say I am 60% a monster?
Because I always thought it was somebody else.
What do you mean?
I thought it was my sister or my father for a long time, because the lie was Dad was the molester.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lie I grew up with. That was the excuse my brother gave to the court when he beat my mom, was that he had been molested.
And let me ask you, do we have any evidence that he wasn't molested by your dad, or that he was?
No.
For all we know, that may or may not be true. We don't. Okay.
I don't know. But honestly, I don't. This is just my personal opinion.
Sure.
I don't see it because my father wasn't creepy like that. He loved women. You know, he was a passionate Italian, and he loved women, you know, feminine women.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I never swallowed that story. And then when later after my sister died, my brother told me, no, it was my sister doing the harm, the molestation.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the hell to do with that.
Yeah, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. 35 years in my work, I've heard sisters molesting brothers just as often as I've heard brothers molesting sisters. And because, you know, father played a certain, you know, straight face or didn't look the type, doesn't necessarily mean anything. Bottom line is, unfortunately, you don't know the story, unfortunately, which sucks. But you've been taught, you thought the monster was someone else, when it turns out, if I'm hearing you correctly, you were taught to believe that it's you.
Right.
So I'll ask you the question once again. And I want you, all things considered, you know, and now your kids are trying to make you feel it, and in the depths of your soul, personally, what % do you believe that you are a monster?
20%?
And what is the very worst thing about you?
Is this a feeling word or is this an action word?
Anything at all. What, I mean, just monster is a big word. So I'm going to say, what do you hate the very most about who you are? Hate. Use the word monster, so hate is not out of the category. What do you hate the most about who you are? And if you say some stupid shit like, oh, I don't clean my kitchen, then we got an issue. Okay, right.
Wow.
What do you do? I mean, if you're going to say you're 20% a monster implies like evil. All right. So what do you hate about yourself? Or is it just, gee, there are some things I dislike? Then if it's dislike, then maybe monster isn't the best fucking word.
And maybe it wasn't the best word, because there was a word that I heard applied to my father, I think. God, I'm so confused.
No, you're doing great. Let me just invert the equation, and then I'm going to flip back over to Rick here. Let me just invert the question and ask you this. At the depths of who you are, regardless of what you've heard your whole life, regardless of what your children say to you about your parenting, which you admit, and that's still fixable, dude. Because think about what the fuck you said. Here I am in my mid-60s, and my mom did all this shit, and God damn it, I wish I had had more time with her so that I could change her mind, basically, so that you could finally get the love you had wanted from her your whole time. So do you really think that if it's for as hurt and angry as your fucking little peckerhead kids are in their 20s or 30s, do you think that they still don't want, honestly, your love, your acknowledgement of all the shit you did and your ownership? And they do. And you can, but you got to heal. To do it right, you got to heal yourself first. So all that aside, the question is this. So there's hope. There is always hope. Because I'm talking to a woman in her mid-60s who's still longing for her dead mother to approve of her and accept her. All right? So your children in their 20s or 30s, there's still plenty of hope. Okay. All that being said, my question is this. What %, honestly, do you love you?
Oh, that's
now before wait, no. Come on now. Not the jokey stuff, all right? Because you said that's your way of not having authentic conversation and real feelings. And you say you do the jokey to save the other person's feelings. You don't have to save my feelings here, young lady. You don't have to protect my feelings and getting uncomfortable, all right? I'm down in this slop every day, all right? You can't make me uncomfortable. So enough of the jokes, all right? You got that out of your system. Now, stay in it and give me an honest answer. All right? Because when I was telling Rick, dude, you got to start motherfucking journaling, and you're nodding your head and you're like mouthing the words. You got to journal. You got to, okay. So you know that getting down into the real shit is the real shit. So I'm holding your hand now, young lady. So tell me honestly, and there's no right or wrong answer. Don't tell me something you think I want to hear. Just tell me honestly.
Is this a percentage again?
What percentage of you,
do I love myself?
What percent do you love yourself? That's right.
50%.
50%. Now, if I were to tell you that you can't choose the wishy-washy number of 50%, but you have to err on one side or the other, you can pick any other number, but not 50%. What number would you choose?
75.
Now, that's a giant fucking leap. You could have chose 51%.
No, because mostly I love myself. There are a few things that I wish that I didn't still feel. Okay, so I have a lazy eye. You may have noticed.
I didn't.
Or you didn't, but I do. And that for me is a huge area.
You literally don't have a lazy eye. I am literally looking at you right now. You have been.
But that doesn't happen.
Wait, no. Now, wait a minute. My girlfriend has two little funky teeth in the front. And when I met her, she was self-conscious about it. Self-conscious about her feet, self-conscious about whatever. I don't fucking know. And I'm like, that's just dumb. I think you're fucking hot as fuck. I told her. And it's just like, I love her teeth. I love her fucking everything. Is it possible you've been so fucking conditioned to hate on yourself, to self-criticize, that it's the very person whose love you want, whose voice is inside you, tearing at your flesh from inside? Mom's voice, dad's voice, sister's voice, brothers. Is it possible that is, if you love yourself 75%, and then the first fucking thing out of your mouth is, but I got this fucking lazy eye. It's like, mother of Christ. What is it possible that that's 75%, or whatever the percent, is, we'll go 75, is the voice of that authentic little girl before age 4 that still truly loved herself, and that everything else is all those other voices inside you, and they have been tearing at your flesh ever since. And you have been so conditioned to tear yourself down. Is it possible?
Yeah, it's more than possible. It's exactly the problem.
Exactly. And so the work then is beginning to go inside and identify those voices and extract those voices. And I know you've been working on that because you've probably read my book, and it's going further in and identifying those and continuing to flush those voices, those messages, and all the emotion that goes with it out, because that's not your native self. You were fundamentally conditioned to hate yourself. And any child conditioned to hate themselves was fundamentally raised by a bad parent. All right? If love is an action, that is not a loving action. Therefore, you were not loved. Even if they did nice, comfy, warm things like hugs and kisses, it doesn't matter, because you're getting this whole other counter messaging here saying you should fucking hate on yourself and you should turn on your fucking self. Therefore, that fundamental premise, children, for whatever reason, when they're little, they have one fundamental premise. Mom and dad are good. Mom and dad love me. Or mom and mom, or dad and dad, whoever they're raised by. Mom and dad are good. Mom and dad love me. Therefore, if I'm not getting that love, something's wrong with me. It's my fault. Something's wrong with me. And that child then goes through life. And especially if that is reiterated by mom and or dad or anyone else in life. Oh, yeah, see, it's my fault. I'm the monster. I'm the fucking bad one. I'm the problem. And so they're forever trying to do better, do more. Or they just give up and fucking hit the bottle or hit the drugs or hit the overworking. Or they try to prove themselves by career successes or doing more. Or I can just convince them. Then they'll finally like me, okay? But the fundamental operating premise at 4 years old, that started at 4 years old, potentially even sooner, is mom and dad are good. Mom and dad love me. Therefore, I must be the problem. And I have a question for you. You were a nurse. You've had children of your own. Is there any way possible that a 4-year-old could have something so fucked up about them that it would be reasonable to justify that 4-year-old hating themselves?
No.
No, of course not.
No.
It's fucking impossible. Therefore, if that 4-year-old is hating on themselves, it's not the child. Mom and dad did not love that child. Mom and dad were not good parents. So the reason you weren't getting love had nothing to do with the 4-year-old. There was literally nothing wrong with you. Literally nothing. You were a beautiful, smart, creative, wonderful, rambunctious, ornery when you didn't get your nap, steal an extra cookie little girl like every other child. You were wonderful. This goes for you too, Rick. You were this beautiful, smart, playful, creative, rambunctious little boy.
Yeah.
And you were conditioned to believe you don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. You don't deserve to be seen. Come on, boy, get it out of you. Come on. What's the problem? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the shutting down happens. And so, back to you, Rick, let me ask you, what do you think, for you personally, is the single biggest feeling that is most overwhelming and hurting the most right now, that most needs to come out of you? What is at the very top, as it is presenting today, this week, this month? What is the biggest thing that's just tearing you up the most inside?
Oh, the sadness and emptiness. And I don't love myself as much as what I need to. Just the listening to you talking with Janet, I started to cry, because for my whole life I felt like I was a defective. My whole fucking life I felt like I'd been I was a defective. And
were you defective? Was there ever anything wrong with that little 7-year-old boy? Was there a damn thing wrong with that kid?
No, because I had a lot of other love to give. But
no. Stop.
Okay.
Stop. It's not even because you had a lot of love to give. You were a beautiful boy, period. Not because you could do something like give love. Not because you had something to contribute to life. Not because, gee, you could run really fast. Not because, gee, you're the cute son. Or not because, there is no because. You were intrinsically beautiful. Child of God, or fucking just a child. You have been this wonderful person your whole fucking miserable fucking life, and they convinced you otherwise. You were taught a lie. And that lie has been this insidious fucking virus inside of you, like this giant 12-foot long tapeworm that then had babies. And you have these babies, tapeworms, these viruses infecting the entire operating system of who the fuck you are. And the reason you started crying when you were hearing Janis's story is because it resonated. The reason sound can travel from a concert grand piano through one of the concert halls at Lincoln Center in New York City, that little fucking box of a musical instrument, is because it resonates deep inside that box. And when Janis spoke, it resonated so loudly across thousands of miles to where you are, and you felt the resonation as true to your experience. That feeling like, I am defective, I'm the monster. You were both taught the most heinous of lies, that a child could be intrinsically bad, that a child could be innately unlovable. What sick, fucking, disgusting piece of shit teaches that to a child? What the actual fuck is that? And sadly, when that's happened to us, and this is the hard part, we sometimes transfer that onto our kids. Even when we don't want to, even when we don't try. But it's not unfixable. That is not unfixable. And the single biggest difference between your mom and dad, Rick, and you, is you're trying to fucking fix it.
That's right.
That's right. And it is fixable. But what it requires is for you, Rick, to go into this motherfucking sadness, into this motherfucking emptiness, into this feeling of defective. And you need to be journaling your fucking ass off. and whether you do it all every day or whether you do it every other day or whatever. And writing letters, and that's the other piece. And you need to get the book. There's a Hole in My Love Cup. That's just non-negotiable because it's going to take you down there. And good. And it's going to, and you got to do the journaling exercises in the book. The journaling exercises in writing. This is not a head book. This is not a thing where you just do all this shit in your head. It has to come out of you. So your time in your group and your therapist and with your brothers and your exercise and your sleeping and your reading and your meditating, your walks with Dee Dee, all golden. I love all of that. But in your spare time to heal from a lifetime, not just this last love that you lost, but to heal from a lifetime of all this shit, you have to go into it and stay in it because you've been running from that tidal wave of all your pain, locking it down. Now the lid's blown off. Finally, thank God. And now you need to sit in it. Jan, same fucking thing. And you're nodding your head. You know this is what you got to do, right, Jan?
I'm already doing it. I've been here. Been sitting in this since the husband died.
Okay, and so let me ask you, Janice, then, in that vein, what do you think in all that you have been going into, what do you think the biggest thing is that you've been avoiding most of going into, that you don't want to go into, that feels yuckiest or feels scariest or you're most afraid to touch?
I think really what Rick just said, he really put a name to it, is the defectiveness, because that's exactly how I feel.
And is it possible then that in your journaling, in your healing work, that it's going into that and the feelings surrounding that and who called you that and so forth? Is it possible that you've been avoiding doing some of this stuff that scares you most? And so then is it also possible that the woman that you wish was still alive and you wish you could have an honest conversation with, are you prepared, even though she is deceased at the hand of your brother, are you capable, each of you, of calling out your parents? And you don't ever have to have a conversation with them in real life. I don't need you to confront them in real life. I need you to confront them, the parent of your childhood and all your years up to now. Do you have the courage to call them out for what they are, what they have done to a child and adult? Do you have the courage to call it for what it is? Do you have the courage for the first time in your life to just look at the truth without protecting them because you're still hoping to get their approval? Do you have the courage to finally look at the truth and put it on fucking paper? Yes or no? Jan?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes, I do, because I have to. I realize I can no longer go through life than living with all this pain and the bullshit in my soul anymore. So yes.
Okay, then I want to invite KC. I want to see if she has any thoughts here. We don't get her in studio a lot. She's always in the booth, and I'm always curious to hear what she has to say or what questions she has. Casey?
Well, Rick, the one question that I wanted to ask you, and maybe it doesn't lead anywhere, but do you have any idea, or have you dug into why your stuttering started with the word money? Like, were your parents fighting about money or making you feel bad about money? Or is there any correlation to the beginning of your stuttering and that word?
Or is there a correlation with the letter M? Because some people stutter on W's, some people stutter on the letter T. Any correlation to money?
Or why did it start in that conversation?
Or it wasn't a conversation, it was on stage.
Right.
Why then? Why that word? Any thoughts? Good question, Casey.
Damn good question. And the honest answer is no. I cannot think of any correlation.
If you were to speculate, what might it be?
That I was possibly scared to be on stage in front of a lot of people, to be seen, to be rejected, which I have a very big fear of rejection in my life.
Well, especially now after all that, since then, of course. Especially if you think you're defective, you're definitely going to have that. Okay.
Yeah.
Casey, any other things?
With regard to your relationship with the woman that you recently broke up with, I just wanted to say that I would probably say that you guys, based on her history and your history, were probably ping-ponging, whatever damage you guys got off of each other. And I know it's hard to see this right now, but the end of that relationship is probably, I think you're going to look back on that as one of the best things that ever happened to you. Because I think that as you pick relationships going forward, you're not going to be picking them from your place of damage, but from your place of health.
Beautiful.
And you're going to be looking for people that are on your level, because I think you're healthier than you think you are. And the last thing that I want to say to you is that I hope that some part of you, will see yourself through the eyes of the people that love you. Because you sound like and you look like you are a very, very loving person, and you have a lot of love around you. And sometimes we need to just see ourselves from the eyes of others. And in this case, you have so many people looking at you through loving eyes that I would say, and I know that Sven sometimes will say against this because we need to, find our own love for our own self. But sometimes people's love for us help us see what's beautiful about us.
True.
I hated myself for so long. And then I had so many people telling me how good I was and about my goodness and my kindness and my lovingness. And then I realized that those were qualities that were better than 9/10 of the population, and that I should see myself through their eyes as a loving person. And so I hope you will do that. And I also, I commend you on all the work that you're doing, the group, all of that I think is incredible. You are so much healthier than you realize. And to you, I want to say, you're not a monster. You were just raised by monsters. And
well said.
And I really believe that you did those things that you feel are so shameful because you, like probably 80% of the population in this country, were trying to self-medicate. You were in such pain and you did not know what to do with that pain. And so you started self-medicating. And I mean, we all do it in some form or another, either overeating or alcohol or sex or, all kinds of addictions out here. And so you, in my mind, don't have anything to be ashamed of. I think we need to start teaching people in this country not to fear psychology or psychiatrists or medication, because sometimes it's just needed. And we need to let doctors decide with us when it's right for us to have those medications and things to help us get through, rather than for us to pick up a bottle or start overeating or start medicating ourselves. Like we need to not feel ashamed of allowing people to help us through our issues. I think that you can probably fix things with your kids, and even if you can't, isn't it worth apologizing and trying to own those things that you did and not being defensive about it and allowing them to heal? Because even if they never speak to you again, isn't it better to know that you did all that you could to heal them from the generational trauma that you potentially put on them? And you are not alone in this, believe me. We all do it. I've done it to my kids, and I've had to own, and I continue to make mistakes with them and have to own it. And that is the most important thing that makes a difference between us that are doing the work and the people that are not, like your parents were not.
Thank you, Casey. And I just want to follow up on a quick thing there. Those are always such great insights, Casey. Thank you. Rick, you just got to dive into the heavy stuff, and you as well, Janis. On just one tip, Janis, on the kids stuff, my recommendation is just wait. Do more healing of your own shit, so that, because when you go into the situation of, if you choose to acknowledge and own all the shit that you've done to them, you'll be far less likely to be triggered by anything they say or do, because right now they're hating on you, and that's just a mountain, and it feels like a mountain. But if you clear out the mountain that's already in you, you'll have room for their mountain. I would also recommend, if you have not already, go and watch the video And it's easiest to pick up on either Instagram or TikTok because you can scroll through my videos faster. Go to Badass Counseling and go to the one from Christmas of 2023. And I'm sitting outside. I've got my bomber jacket on. I'm sitting in the snow. And it's titled something along the lines of 7 things you can do to help your adult kids heal. And I want you to go through and I want you to do it, but I don't want you to give it to them yet because you're not ready. Okay. So I want you to heal yourself or get down the road a bit more on healing yourself before you go and try to sort of be present fully to them. And I really appreciate Casey bringing this up. And then, because ultimately the question you have to ask yourself is if you had to choose ultimately between having a relationship with them, having them in your life, or healing them, if that were your decision and you alone could choose, which would you choose, having them or healing them? Knowing that if you have them, they'll never heal, or if you heal them, you'll never get them, which would you choose?
Oh, absolutely, that they get healed.
Great.
I've heard you say that many times, and I have, pondered that because I have a very toxic relationship with my oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And I continually have to just let her go.
And that can be, and you may not get that relationship, and it comes with the notion, the way you can best heal her after you're more have done your own stuff is to go to her and say, whether in writing or in person, or say, listen, you don't ever have to forgive me, and you don't ever have to have a relationship with me, so that she knows instantly you're not trying to get anything out of this. And that you're saying, I have done X, Y, Z, P, Q, R, L, N, Z, and D. And I've probably done more, and if there's anything I've missed, please tell me. And it's super fucked up, and I taught you horrible things about yourself, and I wasn't there, and I own all of it, and it's fucked up. I was a fucking horseshit parent. There's no fucking excuse on God's green earth. Doesn't matter what I went through. That's irrelevant. That's not an excuse. And you just put that in her lap, and if she never has a relationship, fine, but you've busted your balls. Now that's fucking parenting. That's doing your best. All right. Anyway, but the single biggest thing that you need to do in your own healing, and this goes for both of you. All right. So you listen up here as well, Rick. Yeah. Both of you need to, I know you want the love from the parent that you never got, but the single biggest thing that you're going to need to do in it, not just unlocking all the sad and the pain of that 4-year-old, that 7-year-old, that 17-year-old, but you have to be willing to rage. Fucking rage. Rage at them for what they did to those children. You have to. And until you do, you're just locking down your own rage, and you are fundamentally protecting them at the expense of the child, because that child naturally felt anger. How did it feel when, I had to go to my sister's blah, blah, blah? Or how did it feel when my dad didn't listen to my feelings, Rick? How did a natural feeling, one more natural feeling would be sad, would be frustrated, would be angry, would be, okay, those are natural responses. So if that child was not allowed to get those out, that means it's still fucking in there. You don't ever have to confront the living, breathing person, but you have every right to get those natural feelings out. And if you don't, that means you are still protecting your parent at the expense of the child. So now it's you telling that 4-year-old, that 17-year-old child that you were, now it's you telling that one, your feelings don't matter. Now it's you shaming the child. Now it's you, the adult in your 60s, protecting the parent at the expense of the child. Now it's not them. Now it's you, because I just fucking told you it's you. And I'm not saying it ain't scary, but until that rage comes out as well, you're not going to be fully healed. All right, we're going to call it quits. You guys were fucking amazing. I am so proud of both of you. And I'm going to ask, would you be willing to stick around for just 2 minutes after the show for a little overtime?
Sure.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much. On behalf of the you bet. On behalf of the entire team, KC and Rob the Rocket, both in studio, have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.